Antigravity is already one of the most powerful AI coding tools on the planet. However, 90% of people don't realize that they are just using 10% of its own capability. And the reason is because the true business value is not on Antigravity itself, but is on its ability to be connected with thousands of apps with something called MCP. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what an MCP is, how you can connect Antigravity to any MCP already natively available inside the IDE, and also how you can do custom connection. And to do that, we are going to connect NA10 MCP, and I will show you how I use it on a day-to-day to improve already existing workflows. And if you're new here, my name is Joe. I'm an ex-senior manager in big tech, and over the past 5 months, I've helped more than 50 businesses transition to AI. So with that aside, get comfortable and let's dive straight in. Let's start immediately by defining what an MCP is, and to do that, we're going to use this picture right here. So before the MCP, which you can see it as a thing that the agent uses in order to call tools, or a standardized way in which we can access tools, you can think of the MCP as the English of apps, right? So it's the way that apps can talk to each other in a standardized way so that you can access them more easily. And why is that? Because let's go to the before or without MCP scenario. You are going to have an LLM, and then with this LLM, you will need to connect every single API of any single application or tool that you want to use. So right here in this image, if we wanted to use Slack, we would have to connect it with the API. And let's imagine here we have an LLM, but you can also think about it as a platform, right? So let's imagine that here we have NA10. So Slack has to be connected here. Then if you wanted to connect YouTube, then again, you would need to go inside your NA10 and provide the YouTube API and etc. And if you had also Zapier integration, you would have to connect it to your NA10, and then eventually you would be able to access it from there. This is 3 random examples to show you that this also requires some certain degree of technicalities, because in order to do this API connection, right, you have to be able to read the code and so on and so forth. Now, here with the MCP, everything from the process standpoint becomes a lot easier, right? Because you have 3 different apps, right? And all of these apps are connected to this MCP. And then in your case, and here instead of NA10, here we have Antigravity, right? And here we have that the only thing that we need to do is to enable a one stream, which is this one right here, in order for our Antigravity to be able to access all of these at once, right? So this is the big disruption behind the MCP. Like, it just makes the tool calling much faster, much easier. Everything is integrated in one point. There are drawbacks in terms of context. However, this is the very simple explanation of what an MCP is. Now, where do we find MCP in Antigravity, and how can we actually access them? Once you go to Antigravity, as usual, you're going to open your folder, and let's make an example of a trial folder MCP, and we're going to just access this, and you're going to press open right here. So what's going to happen now is that Antigravity will open your folder, and you can see it from the top left right here. But right now, we go straight towards the MCP. So in here, you will see that you have 3 dots. Not sure if they are available in my screen, but they are something like this, and you can press them. Once you press them, you will see a drop-down menu that now I can see that you're seeing, and here you can press MCP servers. Now here, as mentioned, you will be able to access quite a lot of them. So let's make the example that I wanted to access Notion. All I had to do, if I wanted to, would be to go here and then press install. And that would be it, right? Like, I would not need to have any technical stuff or any technical knowledge to do this. And as you can see here from the MCP store, we have quite a lot of MCPs. However, so you have GitHub, Stripe, and so on and so forth, right? However, not all apps, in this case, we want to connect our NA10, are connected to Antigravity. What does it mean? It means that not natively, we will be able to find the MCP that we're looking for. And if you see right here, if I press NA10, I can see that no results were found. So what does it happen? In this specific scenario, if we go back to this image right here, we see that now we are in the scenario where we actually need to do something like this. So we need to add manually another branch to ensure that through the MCP, we will actually be able to access our NA10. So all we are doing right now is simply having something like this. Now here I will draw an 8 to refer to NA10. However, we are now going to do this manually so that after knowing and learning this, you would be able to connect it to any app. So how do we do that? We go on MCP store, you press manage MCP servers, and here, right here, you're going to be able to see every MCP connection that you already have. Now, if we do everything properly, right here, we will be able to see an NA10 MCP connection that will pop up right here. So how do we do that? We need to be able to create now a little JSON that we will be able to add to this file right here. So to the view raw config, which basically is nothing more than a file that contains all of your custom MCP connection. Now, where do we find this and how do we create this? We are actually going to find this inside our NA10, and it's already pre-populated. So let me show you inside NA10 how you would be able to access it. So inside your NA10 interface, and allow me to go right here just so you can see, you will have something called setting. And right here, you have MCP access. By the way, look at the symbol because you might have a different naming convention based on the version that you have. However, this is still going to be here. Once you access this interface, you will see that either you have, like me, access token available right here, or you will have something on the side. So it will be on the right-hand side of your screen that will give you the same thing. So if you have my same interface, you're just going to be able to press access token. You're going to refresh your access token right here. And eventually you're going to open this right here, which says mcp.json file. So once you open it, you are going to have the MCP server stuff that you actually want, right? So right here, you just press copy. So let me now quickly show you how I actually use it whenever I have to improve my own workflows with NA10. So now I'm actually inside what I would do for a client of mine. So everything is blurry to cover any personal and important details. So this is what I was mentioning as the other possibility of connecting this, right? So you will see that now the interface with the MCP instance is slightly different as before. So what I would do now here is go on enable workflows. And here you would look for the workflows that you have available. Right now, I enabled 2. And what I would do is now go inside Antigravity. And right here, I would have Antigravity to fetch the first version of my JSON file that is in Antigravity. And then, as you can see, the green ones, they might be blurry because I need to cover the name of the systems. But I have the version 2 happening right after, which then I paste inside NA10 and validate if everything works as per expectation or not. Mind you, the important part here is truly to understand that in this scenario, Antigravity is not building the workflow necessarily for you, but it's suggesting you an architecture that you would be able to implement later on. So this is to say, also with the IDEs coming and these agentic workflows coming, still learning the basics of how no low-code platform works, so NA10, make.com, and etc., it's still a super relevant skills. So with that being said, I hope that now you can connect every single app to your Antigravity. And if you want to learn more, you should check this video right here.